It seems like every week we get a new release of full self-driving supervised. Yes, it's out of beta and into supervision, and the vision looks awfully good from here. But for some, it is not good enough. It is still too reckless and dangerous and crazy, or at least that's what some would have you believe. I've got some thoughts on that, but I will share them with you. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futurasa. Joining me today is my good friend Herbert from Brighter. Check him out if you haven't. I imagine if you're here, you already know who he is, but he does fantastic work and gets the greatest guests on a variety of topics, and it's expanding. And if you love the future of bots as much as I do, you have got to subscribe to Herbert, because not only does he know a lot, not only does he bring in the best experts, but he gets all kinds of people in the industry to share what's going on and what's changing every week. Herbert, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Brian. You do such a great job of the introduction. I appreciate that very much.
Yes. And he says that because at that point it's like, oh, now here comes the interview. Oh, man. So this week I saw one that really got under my nerves, got under my skin a bit. Tesla dashcam footage shows full self-driving nearly crashing into a train. The user who posted it said his Model 3 has driven head-on into closed level crossings on 2 separate occasions.
Yeah.
This immediately raised my BS sensor, because this little looping GIF here shows that the driver had a lot of time and that it was very foggy. Now, you've driven a little bit with FSD beta and then supervised.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
Have you driven in the fog?
I've driven in fog. We live in Seattle all the time. But you know, the speed of that is ridiculous. You can almost see that it's almost like this, oh my God, I'm about to hit this thing. And so I'm going to switch to the right, despite hitting another thing. Just the speed is very, very
Suspect.
It's
very suspect. So for me, earlier in the video, before you could see the actual train emerge from the fog, my thought was, I've driven in the fog and the car likes to kick me out. It likes to say, you know what? I can't see. First, I'm going to cut your speed back. And now I'm going to cut your speed back dramatically. And if the fog or rain or other inclement weather continues to degrade, it'll say, you know what? You're in charge, boss. Take the wheel. And so right there, I'm deeply suspicious, but also I have never seen FSD not recognize an obstacle like that. I've never even seen it on other people's accounts. It doesn't seem right. Any other red flags? Isn't it?
The GIF. Yeah. I mean, look at that. Oh, why is it just the GIF? Why is it just that short period of time? Why are they just showing that little bit, right?
Yeah. And I think we could, if we pull up different sources, we will find the whole video itself. I don't think maybe this has it. Let's find out. Nope. That's another ad. Yeah. Cameras are good enough for FSD unless you don't want to get hit by a train. I've owned mine for less than a year, and within the last 6 months, it has twice attempted to drive directly into a passing train. I am sure that you have had situations where FSD performed poorly in the past. I have. There are intersections where I would say, I have a strong suspicion it's not going to handle this well. I didn't let it drive me into danger. If you really had that problem on 2 different previous occasions of it trying to drive into a railroad crossing, wouldn't you act differently? Wouldn't you not trust it in that situation?
Well, first of all, it's like, you can get anybody to say anything on X and Twitter. So just because you see that, what you got to look at is, right, is this really, is the car been trained so that it's going to hit trains? Is that what they're trying to make it sound like, that it just never solved this problem? And so there must have been, with 500,000 people doing beta for 3 years, that This is a, an issue that cars has been hitting trains all over the place. And this is like, finally, we got one video that shows this. Yeah, right. It's like, okay, so somebody says that, somebody shows that video. And how many times, Brian, have we seen this before where we've seen articles written about Tesla autopilot kills the driver. Tesla autopilot hits a tree, crashes in a tree. It happens all the time. What happens later? What happens 6 months later, a year later? There's a report, and they then backtrack and say, oh, actually, the person was drunk. Actually, it was not on autopilot at all, or FSD, or they don't know what they were saying. They like to blame things as soon as it happens, but almost always, right? I mean, I would like even say 90+%, if not almost all of it, has been not true. And if it was true, there would be, this thing should not, if it's like, it depends on how many times it's happening compared to the total miles driven, because even humans obviously do this all the time. Like the rate of that is ridiculous, with 440,000 people dying in the US every single year, 1.52 million injuries every year. So, it's going to happen. There's no doubt that Tesla's FSD is going to make a mistake. That's not in debate. It's about whether or not it's 1 in a million. Is it 1 in, every 200? Like, and he said, oh, in the last year I've driven it. It's already 2 times tried to kill me. Okay.
Right. I would suggest in that case, maybe use it differently or less. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
out loud. I have seen I've seen edge cases where there's persistent behavior that is unpleasant, unacceptable. I know prior to 12.4, it would ride too close to the curb for my comfort in places, but that's my comfort level. The people I've seen who are routinely disengaging it, who I've had a chance to talk with, writers from other publications, have said, look, it's not that what it's doing is dangerous, it's that I don't like it. So if it's driving in a way that I don't, I'm gonna drive differently. And I'd like to say that that's not me sometimes, but when I get on the highway, I put on limited lane changes and I direct the lane changes. I'm more comfortable being in charge of the lane changes because I don't want to ride too close on someone. I don't want to block traffic more than I have to. And sometimes I'd just rather be in the right lane going slow. So is that
Yeah.
a fault of the software that I have a
Well,
different
yeah.
driving style? No.
So right now it's supervised FSD, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's already pretty well proven at this point that supervised FSD, with all the data that's been captured, that's been reporting all the time, that is already safer than humans, safer than you just driving by yourself. Supervised FSD, okay? But in that scenario, for example, that if that person is not supervising that drive, one of the things again, I just saw that little clip, right? I'd love to see the full video, because did they even press the brakes? Because instead of pressing the brakes, it looks like it intentionally decided to hit another occluded area. So, it's very possible. I think we should look into it, that Tesla is, especially in a fog, it's very difficult for a vision system to figure out that's fog, which is included, pixel, versus that is an actual solid item. One of the things that the the neural network hasn't been able to do versus the previous occupancy network is understand that fog is, while it's occluded pixels, you can drive through it. So that part, there is potential that is an issue. If it's an issue, then it's something to train the system to be able to recognize that, if it's specifically about fog. But right now, the way the system works is that if it is foggy, if it's raining, like you said, right now the system decides, hey, I'm going to turn off, because it's still supervised FSD. They don't need to be on. And they err on the conservative side. And so, like you were asking me earlier, like I drive in Seattle, I drive in the rain a lot, and it will often just say, right, it's too much, or they'll warn you and they'll say, hey, careful, your left camera, it's not able to see very well, those kind of things. And so that's the behavior that it's doing now. But in this case, was that not supervised? because that's what this is supposed to be. It's not robotaxi killed me, you know.
Right. And where are, you know me, and I know that you're the same way. We like the data. If this was a common occurrence, this wouldn't be the first time in 10 billion miles that we're hearing about it. It would be a known issue, especially if it's happened to this individual 3 times. Maybe
Yeah.
there's more to the story and we don't know what it is yet. And when the investigation is complete, it will get a tenth of the coverage, maybe 1% of the coverage. There was
Right.
that situation with the drunk driver who just got a Plaid, I think, and wanted to show off and smashed into a tree, killing both himself and the occupant. And of course, the police immediately said it's definitely the car went 90 on this little windy side street off the road. I mean, come on, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not finding a better video of it, but I had an opportunity to drive my Model Y through a middle of the night construction zone, and there was a little bit of fog. And because there were flashing yellow light trailers in the road telling you to move over, as it approached from a good mile away, it already was starting to slow down. It could already tell something is going on. And I've seen it slow down for the yellow flashing light in the opposite lane of travel.
Yeah.
But this, I let it drive through the construction zone. It narrowed to 1 lane on the highway at night, and I let it do it, and it got the speed appropriate. It stayed safely behind the car in front of me. It was a very skinny lane. It handled it, I would say, better than my teenagers would. So
One
I
of the
don't
things
know.
I experienced was we're headed into, straightaway, headed into a tunnel, and it's starting to get darker in there, right? The different look, the car slowed down before it was headed in there. And it was just very, cautious, and you can feel it. You can say, okay, I would do the same thing. Cause is it hard to see? Not hard to see. And then all of a sudden, okay, I got it, understood where I'm at and moved on. But that's what the car would do. Again, I'm not saying that wasn't true, because it can
Right.
very well be, right? You're
It
talking
could.
about a foggy area. You're talking about a train that's hard to see when it's moving really fast. And then the fog could actually obscure whether or not that's actually is that fog or is that a solid object? That is probably, I would agree, one of the hardest things for neural net to figure out. Just recently, Tesla, Ashok Alaswamy demoed that almost every car is trying to figure out the automatic emergency braking, right? If the car in front of you or something in front of you is you're getting there, it's going to automatically stop if it feels like you're going to hit something in front of you. But what Tesla's able to do that no one else is the cross traffic. So if a car is moving this way, could the car figure out that that's going to be in front of you and an emergency brake as well? And he showed that that they were able to demonstrate that that's what the car is able to do. This cross traffic emergency braking is going to become something that NHTSA will require everybody, all car makers, to be able to do. And so even though today everybody's going, oh, my Mercedes can do the, AEB already is in it. Yeah, possibly, but not like this. So I think that this concept of this train, the lights, but even the lights, the blinking lights alone should be, something that they,
I
cautious.
found a longer clip here.
Okay. Okay, good.
That's a lot of seconds. That's a good
Yeah. That's a lot of seconds.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3. I mean, it was almost 4 full seconds. So,
Yeah.
and if you can't see that far, you shouldn't be going that fast. If this person was supervising, they weren't supervising well, but I am just not convinced that this is
Can you
legit.
scroll down? Yeah, it says
Let me make it a little bigger
the
for you.
vehicle was in full self-driving
Whoops.
mode, and what? And allegedly, this isn't the first time the driver has experienced a disturbing incident at a railroad crossing.
Whoops.
Okay, so it was him that said that. Last 6 months, it has twice attempted. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know. Owned it for less than a year and it just keeps doing it. but I'm going to keep letting it try. And I don't understand why you would. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
So that's a good question, actually. This is supervised. And so he's supposed to be supervising it. So why didn't he slow down?
Maybe it was his
And
coffee
if he
break.
already knew that this is a problem, and so it's like, oh, okay.
Right. I had a problem intersection where it would like to try and go through a no right on red situation. And
Yeah.
every time it would try, I would apply the brakes. So that's,
No,
I don't
do you
know.
understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
actually, him saying that this has happened several times before is not damning on Tesla. It's damning on him.
Right.
Then
Yeah, he's
why
not
weren't you,
supervising.
when you knew that there, you can see it yourself? I mean, look at all those seconds. There's a train there. You saw that, and you can just let this go unless you were asleep, falling asleep on the wheel. So whose fault is
Yeah.
that at that point if you're asleep on the wheel? Yes, okay, maybe it's both your fault, right? FSD and you, but this is supervised FSD. Thank
You
you
know
for
what they
finding an edge
say?
case.
Fool me 3 times. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. So, guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? How bad did we miss this one entirely? I'd like to know. I do want to say a quick thanks to Jan from Tesla Fix, who is allowing me to use his studio this week. Doesn't it look and sound great, you guys? And big thanks to Herbert from Brighter for joining me and making us all brighter, as he is required to do under contract when he appears. Make us brighter, or you're not coming back. That's just the deal. That's just the deal, you guys. So like, subscribe, do the usual. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the next one.